out in the community and spread, and conversations going that way. So we're going to do it through Kendra.
That's really good. There is some negative chatter going on out there, so we're just trying to head it off, just to clarify it for everybody, so we can try to keep things up as much as we can here. Okay, that's 1 and 2. Next is the approval of the minutes. It's Economic Development Task Force, 4th of February. Has anybody got any comments on them? Yes, Janet?
I was there, not Dana. So if the minutes could just show that, please.
Yeah. Yeah, Dana's actually here. Anyhow. Anybody got anything else?
John, I just want to mention Sally is now joining us from the CW Chamber. So,
hi, Sally. Welcome. Okay, it's nice. We got 3 new members, which is great. It's always wonderful to expand the knowledge here, and some of these folks are in really key positions. Sally is really key. Okay, if there's nothing else on the minutes, we'll pass that one. Now, next thing is County of Wellington Economic Development Update by Mayor Kelly.
Thanks, Don. Just a quick update as far as the county goes. There's not a whole lot yet to update, and Pat might have more than I have right now. But there's been we're going to be rolling out the $200,000 granting process, and hopefully that's going to happen soon. And that should help provide some small grants for our small businesses in the area. That should help at this time, based on the results from the BRNE review, the project that we just wrapped. Hopefully we have some good sense on what's going to happen with that $200,000. But that's spread across the county, not just Center Wellington. But we usually get our fair share of that. So I don't know, Pat might have more updates. Nothing else from a county perspective, from an economic development to the state, except for the fact that our museum is looking at. They just did a strategic plan for the museum, and that's really exciting. There's going to be more of an economic development focus. Yana now oversees both the museum and economic development out of the county, so we're going to see some interesting things coming out of the museum, and a tie-in back to kind of tourism-y kind of event kind of things, and tying that back to economic development. So we'll keep our eye on that as a committee here, because there might be things that we want to tie back into. So some really good ideas coming out of that side of things from the county. That's it.
Pat, did you have anything else to add for the county?
Not yet. I understand that the economic developers in the across the county are going to have a meeting later this month to discuss how some of these things are going to roll out, and what they're actually going to look like in implementation. So,
okay. Any questions on either of those two? Oh. Okay, Business Park Strategy Working Group. Why don't I take a run at this, and maybe Pat and Andy, you guys can. So just so everybody knows, especially some of the new people, the town has bought 50 some odd acres, and it goes from where the business park is over to the first line, and so it's to be expanded for a business park. The township has retained McSweeney, who is an outfit that does all kinds of studies. The target sector we should be looking for, financial analysis. There's a whole schedule here, and by June 24th, we should have all that study stuff done, what we should be charging for it, and they go through all of that stuff for us. It's really good. Bob Cameron is on that as well as I am, plus Pat and Andy and anyhow, and the mayor and Brett. There was a question at one of the meetings, not the last one, the one before, is McSweeney asked what Bob and I were doing there. So, it was really quite interesting. Anyhow, good group, very competent. And so we're trying to move that whole thing along, and so that we can get servicing done and get selling some of the land and hopefully get some more businesses coming. Okay, Pat, do you have any more to add to that?
Just want to let the committee know that the purpose of the business park strategy subcommittee is to help us work through some of the issues that the consultants will identify. So we've been dealing with things like the target sector analysis. We've been dealing with where they're currently working on the market and location analysis. They will be dealing with a planning, servicing analysis for the kind of things that they believe that clients will expect in the park, or the size, lot sizes, etc. We'll be dealing with financial analysis. We'll be dealing with policies and administration around management of the park, how we sell, things like commissions for real estate. We'll be dealing with issues like, an industrial land pricing policy. Those are the kind of things that we'll be getting assistance from the consultants on, and we should have all of that in place so that when we're at the stage where we can start doing some grading and developing of the park, all of the background stuff has already been done. So that's the purpose of, just for the new members, that's the purpose of the Business Park Strategy Committee. And obviously Don and Bob are sitting on it because of their knowledge of the local community as well as land development with us. So that's just a sort of an update. We are at the stage of market and location analysis. We did review the target sector analysis last week, and our next meeting, I believe, is on the 18th. So
it's really good. We're trying to get all of these studies, all this stuff done so that it's complete and we know exactly where we're going to go. That's sort of the idea. Mayor Kelly, do you have anything else to say?
No more than that. I mean, this is something that's so critical, and this group has been really instrumental in us getting this up going. Like, this hasn't been easy. I mean, this has taken us a long time to get to this point, and having McSweeney on here to develop a whole plan on how we're going to attract the right businesses to come to Center Wellington, this is huge. And sometimes we just kind of go meeting to meeting and think that this was a done deal right from the day one. But this is a lot of slogging, and this group was very instrumental in getting this through council. It represents a significant departure from what we've ever done before to buy, to service and sell land. This is big. This is one of the biggest things that we've done as a group and as a township. I know Jim Gibbons was a huge fan of this from day one, and he was, for one of the first things he did when I became mayor in 2014 is to drive me around and introduce me to a bunch of the folks and the businesses in the Fergus Industrial Park, and said, we got to do this again. So he's been harping in the background on me for years to get us to do something like this. So this is really, really exciting. McSweeney is the perfect company to be working with us on this one. They fit our culture to a T. They work well with council. They work well with the great people that we have on this group here, and they're going to come up with a really solid plan so that we develop a business park. And I want us to make sure we're using the right terminology for this. This is not an industrial park. This is a business park. We want to attract all kinds of different businesses. We want this to look amazing. We want this to be something that the town can be very proud of for years and years and years to come. So we need to do it right. And I'm really excited about where we're going with this. We had a really, really good discussion with the subcommittee. We're tracking well on this, and it's so good that we have a consultant like McSweeney to push us along and make sure that we're doing this based on some best practices that they've worked with other municipalities on for years and years across Canada. So we're in great shape. and we're going to continue to wrestle through some of the challenges that we have with getting this up and running as fast as possible, but not cutting any corners. We want to do this right. So again, I just want to thank, and I know I do this often, but I want to thank this group here because you guys have really helped us as local leaders push this agenda. This has not been easy, and we're getting to the point where it's getting really exciting because we're going to see something up and running, and we have ourselves to thank for that. So yeah, good job, and we're tracking. Really excited about the conversation that we had last week with this subcommittee. We're on the right path for sure.
Thank you, Mayor Kelly. Yes, Brett?
Just want to add, so in between the meetings of the recovery group, Pat and I are meeting directly with McSweeney, and a person that you didn't really see during the strat plan exercise, but it's a key part of McSweeney's team, has direct involvement in, the design and the development of business parks throughout Canada and, small town Ontario in particular. So he's given us a lot of great feedback. We have another meeting set up tomorrow. We're talking about our official plan policies for business development, what the right zoning should be so that we get the right uses, the right lot size, the right regulations. And in addition to that, we also have, we've engaged the municipal engineers at Triton they've done a topo survey already this year, and they're also consulting with the GRSA about what the environmental impact requirements, because we do have wetlands out there that we have to deal with, what the buffering and the setbacks and things like that will be, and what we need to do from a stormwater management perspective. So we're moving ahead with that work simultaneously to keep this thing going.
That's great, Brett. It's all these things happening at the same time. It's going to let us get it delivered that much sooner. There was just one of the comments Eric said at the end of the meeting says, I can feel the urgency to get this done. And I said that all we really want to do is see pipe going in the ground and concrete being poured for foundations. The sooner the better. Yes, Pat.
Just wanted to mention that last week I had a discussion with a real estate agent that assisted us in purchasing the property. And he feels that Fergus and Center Wellington is really well positioned to take advantage of some of the things that are happening in the market right at the moment around land pricing. He was indicating that land around the 401 in Cambridge and KW is now going for $675,000 to $700,000. The lands in the cities of Kitchener, KW, and Guelph are now going for about $450,000 to $500,000 an acre. So, which is essentially pricing small businesses that need to expand out of the market, and they will be looking for, when they need to expand, they will be looking for other locations because they just cannot afford to stay where they are any longer. I know of one business in KW that sold their land because they couldn't afford to stay on it, and have moved out to the country. So I think we're going to see a lot more of that happening in the future. And I do think that he's right that we are well positioned to take advantage of that. Bob and I were just talking yesterday about a piece of land in Center Wellington that is currently on the market for an absolutely outrageous price. So I'm hoping that some of that craziness doesn't extend as far as Center Wellington, but I think that the municipality owning land will be able to help a lot of businesses and really improve our tax assessment and our employment in Center Wellington. So just anecdotally, that's the things that we've been talking about.
Okay, has anybody got any other questions on this particular item? No, okay. Next one is the Economic Recovery Working Group. And I'd just like to make a little comment here to start with. I'd really like to thank the people that went out in December of last year to beat the bushes and try to get some input. And this group has somehow or other, I wind up chair of all these things. But anyhow, the information was really good. The problem is we've had this other lockdown, which changes a lot of it. But we've come up with a couple of concrete things, and maybe Peter, can I get you to explain the the Google one?
Sure. I mean, we're still in the process with some of this stuff, but what we had talked about, Christelle and I, was the idea that we're putting together a plan to get people. There are so many businesses that don't even own their own Google listing on Google, and everybody goes to Google. I mean, let's face it, it's just the way that it is now. So the idea really was around the fact that we were going to help those that couldn't do it themselves, either through a workshop that was going to be, looked at and organized for anybody that wanted to attend. Of course, it would be a virtual workshop. But that workshop would then be recorded and be available for anybody that wanted it in the future, so that really it's just an evergreen thing that could be there. We could say, hey, listen, if you want to know how to do it, just go to the workshop and it's there for you. The second step of that would be to have potentially, Christelle has in her group and in her round of people that she knows, the person that looked after Digital Main Street. And that person's available to help us with this project too. So depending on funding, that person could be there to actually guide people through it and help them sort of on a one-on-one basis potentially, or even do it for them. So there's sort of the self-serve version of it, the assisted version, and the done for you version of sort of claiming that Google, understanding what it is to have your Google and responding to reviews and all this other stuff with it, and working through the fact that if you really want to be found, you need to understand what Google's all about. So that was sort of the impetus of that program that we talked about. Crystal's got something to say as well.
Crystal, yes.
Thanks. Good morning, everybody. I just want to thanks, Peter, and I want to further share that Sally and I had a great conversation yesterday about, because I understand it was moving more in our direction as far as the Google piece, so that's great. We've come up with an idea already that I know Sally's going to put together a proposal around doing a combination of Google My Business workshops, as well as looking at the support. We already do it here at the Business Center, and so I'm putting her in touch with the people who do the work so that she can formulate, a plan, and I'll let her speak to what she wants to do with that. But the partnership is there, and we'll help market it. I also will just share with you, I literally got an email last night at 11:30 from my Digital Main Street Community Association, who supports it. And because we did such a good job on our last round here, they've extended our funding until June. So I'm getting a brand new set of funding till June, which will provide a couple more months of Digital Main Street squad members. So thankfully, Brendan didn't go yet. It was his last week. So I just sent him an email going, hey, because it can work in tandem with this Google My Business, because that was one of the things that they were supporting when they went into businesses. So I'd ask you to keep that on the QT here, because I haven't signed the paper, but they were like, yeah, we were super happy with the work you guys did in Center Wellington and Guelph. So we're going to give you an extension and some more money. Yeah, I like those emails at 11:30 at night. Cool.
Yeah. Question is, did you read it last night or this morning?
I actually read it last night, Don. Sadly. Yeah.
Sally, thank you for jumping in right away. Sally comes to this meeting a week ago, and next thing you know, she's in it up to her ears. So we really appreciate the help. The chamber is such an important part of all this. Do you have any more to say on that at all, Sally?
Not much other than plan pending. As Christelle said, sort of really great conversation yesterday, and we'll maybe revisit that conversation with that news that came last night, because that one-on-one support was the piece that we were sort of building. But the workshops will as Peter said, sort of advanced and basic and advanced, I guess. So yeah, that plan is coming. I'm thinking we'll probably run the workshops over a period of a couple months, and so people can jump in as they need to. So a lot of people would maybe need to do all three, but maybe some would just need to hop on a number 3, sort of level 3. So that plan will come to you guys next week at the subcommittee, and we'll hammer it all out then.
Good. It's I went on Google the other day. I was talking to somebody about this, and when you go to Google and you zero in on the downtowns, it's stunning. I was amazed at the people that do not have a website, and it's a real shame, because that's where everybody goes for everything now.
True.
So it's a really good positive, sort of something that'll be there for years. It's sort of building a really good base.
Don, the other thing, just to recap a little bit for everybody, is that we also talked potentially about the creation of some sort of barter network that we'll follow up with a little bit later. But that was just an interesting little conversation that we had about maybe creating a barter club for our Center Wellington businesses.
Great.
So more involved than that, and it takes up some time to talk about. But if you have any questions, you can reach out to us and we can kind of fill you in on that.
The other thing we talked about was there used to be a thing called Welcome Wagon. And of course, that's gone now. And so the idea was, so what's happened is you usually shop where you live, or shop where you work, pardon me. So what's changed here is so many people are working at home, and all these new people that are coming into Center Wellington, they're going to be shopping in Center Wellington. So the idea is to try to get together, and maybe Sally, you can jump in here if you would, try to get a digital something that we can find out who has moved in, whether it's new house or old house, and have some little giveaway to get that person to come to your store once, and hopefully they come back. And so to try to capture them, so they're not, if they used to work in Guelph, they know all the stores down there, so they still drive to Guelph. We want to get them to stop and stay in Fergus if we can. So it's anyhow, there's a couple of things that have come out of the committee. Anybody else on the committee that's got, Sally, do you want to just elaborate on that a little bit?
I can, yeah. So the idea currently would be that we would do a digital welcome wagon using the realtor network to get the information to the new purchases and builders to new builds. So there would be sort of in the most basic form, if we start small and grow with time. So if we can roll something out quite quickly, sort of like the idea of a postcard would be left for the people moving in, which would have the information, and they would go to a page that would be hosted on our website, which would be the digital version of that nice package that you maybe would imagine from the past, filled with coupons and links and welcome video from the mayor and a few different pieces, but all hosted within that web page. So they're going to get this postcard that says welcome to the community, scan this link or go to this link, and then it will be a sort of wealth of knowledge and opportunities for them to try some of the local businesses. Through our network and through the coupon book that we just did, we have a pretty good model for gathering that information in terms of soliciting business involvement in a very, very, very easy for them to opt in type way. And then we will just build from there. But in terms of what can we get up and running quite quickly, that's where the plan sits right now. And again, fully written out by next week's subcommittee meeting.
Good. Thank you, Sally. That's anybody got any questions on that? Anybody got any ideas that we could, yeah, Tony.
As just to add one thing to what Christelle and Peter and Sally was saying, with the development of websites, we've got to keep in mind now, and we're seeing more of it around the AODA. Websites have to be AODA compliant, and a lot of small business who make up their own websites or do their own thing are not necessarily up to speed as to what has to be done and what you can do in compliance with international standards. So, I mean, it is one of those things. And I think the idea of having an educational webinar is really good, but that's also an area that we can't forget when we're doing this because a lot of people just, I think people understand what they've got to do with their physical store, but they don't necessarily understand what they got to do with their digital store.
So, Tony, could you, is there kind of a brief note on that?
Yeah, I mean, this is not my area of expertise, I'll be the first to admit, but it's one that I've come to learn that we have to be conscious of. And so obviously when people are having, when we do consults and people are using others to help them prepare a website as a business advisor, I just let them know that, just ask, make sure that you're compliant, make sure that you understand what you have to do in that regard. But the actual technical side, that's not my expertise, but I know, Christelle, if necessary, we could certainly help and provide that.
Yeah,
And I'm sure the township is already aware of some of that as well. I see Andy nodding his head, so.
well, then it was originally, the plan was by 2025, all of Ontario was to be fully accessible and all means. So everybody has, now I appreciate, I'm not sure exactly where the Ford government is with that at that point, but I understand it's still under mandate. And so it's things like being able to, when somebody's passing their mouse over a certain screen, that it's, there's some visual cues, there's some hearing auditory cues, there's some other cues that supplement those so that in its essence, everybody finds accessibility, even searching websites, even searching social media and things like that. So it's an interesting thing because as I said, 2025 was the deadline, and that included city streets and towns and access to sidewalks. And then they talked a lot about, for a community like Elora, for example, where there's maybe 2 to 3 feet behind, between the street and the front door, the idea of grandfathering. And there's a whole issue of that, because how does somebody, if there's no ramp system or no room for a ramp or anything like that, how does somebody have the same access as, one of us was to step up over a step type of thing. So we do a lot of work around accessibility, to the point of, our training, as Tony mentioned, every advisor speaks to accessibility, even when considering leasing a space, making sure that, they're being thoughtful about that it will accommodate accessibility as well too, but it's definitely moving more and more in that area. Yeah.
Well, Crystal, if you could, I guess with Sally, if she can get some guidance just on the website itself, like not the website, but getting these Google websites up and going.
Oh yeah, no, I think now that I've got this news, I've just put a thing out to the Digital Main Street Squad to see if I can pull a couple of them back. They'll give me funding for a couple of them, so we can work in conjunction with the workshops, and then these can do the one-on-one follow-ups. It's a perfect marriage. It's only till June, but that will help support that piece anyways. And then I know Sally's been hoping for a student, a summer student that could then take the role after that, perhaps. It's a nice marriage. Yep.
Sally?
I was just I think I understand this correctly, but you don't need a website to have your Google listing. So this AODA and the website pieces maybe becomes a continuation on these workshop series.
Yeah.
So maybe
Google just allows
everyone on Google first. Then we
Yeah.
get them thinking about websites if they don't already have one. Then we get them AODA compliant if they already have, or if they've just built. So I've just added a few more lines to my plan that you guys will get next week.
Yeah, the point is that you might not have a website, but you should have a Google site.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That I think is the whole idea here is, like, I was stunned. I encourage everybody to go into Google and take a look and see the businesses that are not there. It's amazing. So
well, just the one last thing to say about that, Don, is it's also free.
Yeah, one page is free.
It's free. Yeah.
So it's kind of crazy not to have one page. It's just phone number, where you are on the map. It's really good stuff. Yes, Kim.
I think also, if we're going to be, since we discussed the Google, we should also maybe look at the TripAdvisor, because that's something else that a lot of the tourists look at. And it's also a free thing too. So if you kind of claim and get yourself set up in that as well as your Google, that's another place where there's a lot of reviews that are able to be done. And a lot of people look at the reviews there as well. So that's just another spot that maybe we could include with the Google Your Business.
Don, that's something that we've been working with Artilio for, and a lot of the hospitality businesses about that.
We don't want to do the same thing as other people are doing, but we do want to see it happen here.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, anybody else on that? If anybody comes up with an idea that we can get behind to help businesses pretty well in any way, don't be shy. It's use all the help we can. Yes, Pat.
From the municipality's point of view on the economic recovery, staff have been working on the patio, cafes, and sidewalk policy. And we're hoping to get that to council on March 22nd so that we can have it in place before we're hoping is an early spring. And we're also working on with the BIAs on road closures and what those are going to look like and what form some public patio space is going to look like in downtown Fergus. So those are the couple of things that the township is working on in terms of the economic recovery and reopening.
That's great. It's really nice. It's really nice we're getting ahead of it this year. Last year we were sort of react mode, right? But it was, but it worked out pretty well. Like it just, we had Fergus downtown closed off there for what, 2 or 3 weeks, and that didn't work. So we had to regroup and got something that worked. So it just, anyhow, it's good stuff. Anybody else?
Don, yeah,
yes.
Don, just follow up with Pat. We were confirmed yesterday with the county that in Elora we'll be closing West Mill Street, same as last year. Metcalf Street from the intersection of West Mill up to Geddes. Unfortunately, we need to keep the bridge in East Mill Street open due to traffic, but we've worked with the county to have a compromise that on weekends through the summer, we'll actually barricade all the parking spaces off on East Mill Street in order to provide additional social distancing space and expansion of the businesses out in their storefronts. So that is now being approved by the county and the township, and we're sharing that with the BIAs. To Pat's point, I think the Elora BIA has a meeting next week, and then Dorothy will also be sharing that with the Fergus BIA. And I know we've been working on what the cafe and that looks like over in Fergus for the downtown for the summer as well.
Great, good. It's great stuff, guys. It's anyhow, it's exciting seeing it all come together. Anything else in economic recovery? No. Okay. Economic development update, Pat?
Nothing other than what I have written there, other than to say that we've seemed to see a renewed interest in the CIP this year. I think I'm hoping that it means that we're seeing a light at the end of the tunnel on this pandemic and lockdowns, et cetera. And businesses are thinking about reopening and sprucing up their storefronts again. So we have seen a renewed interest in it this year. That's just actually what I seem to be spending a lot of time on these days is cleaning up some CIPs and talking to people about CIPs, these new ones.
So do the BIAs, do they sort of mention it to their members, Kim?
We talk about it all the time.
Yeah, Pat sits in on our meetings every month, so she keeps telling us what's happening in that at the economic development point. But yeah,
Okay.
We've been doing emails out to the membership regularly, usually every year, so that we know what's happening and that it's available. So.
And the Fergus BIA is really great because they do provide additional financial assistance to businesses who have gotten a CIP.
Okay.
So they've really made a commitment to it.
So Sally, does the chamber send something out about CIP on a regular basis?
Yeah, we include it in
Yeah.
newsletters, etc.
Okay.
I'm actually editing one, not right now, right after this meeting. So I will, I'll make sure it goes in this one too.
Yeah, because more people know about it, and it just all helps all the way around. So it's good. I have to kind of watch what I say, but there is a lot of stuff going on around town. It's I am absolutely stunned at the amount of stuff that's coming. I can't reveal some of it because of the position I'm in, but there is just a mountain of stuff coming. It's all really good. Downtown, all over the place. It's Fergus, Laura. It's just really, really. That's fairly accurate, isn't it, Pat?
Yes, there are lots of things coming, and there are lots of plans that have been submitted to us or inquiries that have been made to us that are not public yet, but there's a lot of stuff in the works.
It's absolutely stunning, which is good. That's what we're supposed to do. Update on tourism adaptation recovery funding. What is that?
I can speak to that. Through RTO4 and Wellington County, and I'm not even sure. I think maybe the CFDC had some involvement in that too. There was $100,000 of funding provided to tourism businesses and organizations to adapt to the new reality around reopening, PPE and physical adaptations that had to be made to their businesses in order to allow them to reopen. And I am happy to report that 22 businesses in Center Wellington received funding under that fund, and the vast majority of the funding went to Center Wellington. So it was a really great option, because a lot of those businesses fell through the cracks in some of the other funding. So, and organizations like this Fergus Scottish Festival got funding under it, and some of the other attraction type businesses that we have here in town received funding. So I just wanted to let the committee know that that had happened, and Center Wellington businesses did benefit from it.
Good. Peter, did you have something to throw in there? No. Okay. Just as a note, everybody wants to get out. Our overnight camping is 120% above last year at the same time. It's like absolutely stunning. I've never seen anything like it. And you have to keep in mind, this is really just before the floor fell out from under us. So it's not like last year was affected by the pandemic, but it is absolutely, the staff is going crazy trying to get it all done. It's like, so, and the beauty of that is all of these people go and shop it in town, which is good. Okay, next. Somehow or other, healthy growth. Okay, so we had a meeting yesterday, and one of the things that that we went over is the township, Colin Baker, and what's the other fellow's name? Anyhow, two of them came.
Gilmore.
Yeah, two of them came to the committee, and we went through the. They can see that St. David Street reconstruction. So we went through. They made a presentation to us about 4 different options of what the street will look like after it's reconstructed. So they're starting now. We had some really good input. The time frame for the construction is spring of 22, so like a year out. Or no, is it 22 or 23? I think it's
23, I believe.
Yeah, 23. So they're starting it, and they did a lot of work to put the 4 different scenarios together. And just a little brief on it. That one thing that the committee talked about a lot was they had bike lanes on Highway 6, and I think it was pretty unanimous that they don't put bike lanes on Highway 6 because of the number of trucks on it. It's just everybody knows what that piece of Highway 6 is like. It is really busy, and it could get busier because it is one of the main feeders for going right up into the peninsula. Anyhow, various other things. They're going to be planting trees. They're going to make the sidewalks wider if they can. New street lights like downtown. So it'll be a continuation of what we have, which would be really nice. Anything else on Highway 6, Andy? Yes.
Yeah, sure, Don. Thanks. So Adam and Colin had a busy morning because they were also at the Fergus VIA doing their meeting yesterday morning. So they did receive some different, comments from VIA, which is great. So the intent is this is out for public comment. It is on our Connect CW website, and we do have a survey with that. And Kendra and I were just talking about it yesterday. And even though we have not publicized that too much, just more from the presentation to council, We have over a couple hundred people already responding with comments in that and feedback. So that'll be great for engagement. The project is tied to a Connecting Link fund. So timing wise, we're hoping to get some funding from the province, similar to we did with St. David Street Bridge. They will provide only 90% of the funding from the road. There is some infrastructure underneath that is township funded, as well as all any of the enhancements on the street would be township funded. So it's something that is a large project. The services and infrastructure underneath are in need of repair and upgrades. So we'll be working, trying to get applications into the province, and the timing of it, although we're aiming for 2023, will be all based on the timing that we receive funding from the province. So it could be later, it could be on 23, but it'll all be based on that. So lots of work ahead, but we're excited about the feedback we've received to date already, and they'll be coming out of the public engagement, refinement of the options to come up with what might be the preferred to submit to the province for funding.
Good. Just a clarification, it goes from St. Andrew Street, sort of the side of the road that's away from the river, up to Edinburgh Street, which is the beer store, just so you know what the scope of it is. So it's that whole strip.
Don, we could have the PowerPoint presentation that was presented to Healthy Growth. Devlin could attach that to the minutes that we could share.
That's a really good idea, because this is a really key piece in our future. You know, it's going to have things kind of mucked up for a wee bit, but the thing is, if we know it and plan it, like, which is what they're doing, you know, that's really, really key.
Yeah.
The second part of Healthy Growth is Kelly and Associates. It's Attainable Housing Work Plan. So we have a work plan that we just got yesterday, and it goes through stuff like what's the target? First of all, what it is, and then what's the target? Development charges, planning approvals to be streamlined, amending policies of official plan need to be done, conducting review of zoning bylaws, and use of secondary planning address for local issues. It all, there's been a concern expressed that heritage should be involved in this, and heritage is involved. Every building permit that goes through the heritage committee. So it's always something to anyhow, the next meeting, we're going to actually start attacking bit by bit by bit, so we can work our way through it, and we can put recommendations to council to start the ball rolling for all components. Anything? Is Kelly still here? No. Yes, Janet?
Oh, yeah, let Kelly go first. That's fine.
Is he still there? He is. Yep.
Yeah, I'm still here. I didn't move. Is my tile moved?
Yeah, your tile moved. And I'm trying to watch these tiles, and 1 minute you're here.
I didn't try to move my tile. I just wanted to make a couple comments. Firstly, I want to make a comment about our David Street rebuild. And pause there just for a second, because I want to give staff a lot of credit here, because in the old days, we would have just rebuilt the road. Forget going to asking the public what they want. We would have just rebuilt the road and put the sidewalk in. And that's not the way we do things now. So this is a much more time consuming exercise to make sure that we get feedback. And, you know, it's the council, and we were all over the map of what we should be doing with this road. And I'm sure citizens are going to be all over the map. The bikers are going to want a bike lane. Other people are going to be completely against the bike lane. So there's 4 options that are laid out there, and we're going through the process the way you should go through a process. And it's not to make everybody happy, because it won't. But when you're doing something that's this important, you want to make sure you're getting public feedback. So hats off to our staff, and especially on infrastructure services, for taking this approach. This never used to be the way we did stuff, and it definitely wasn't the way infrastructure services used to do things. You know, we're making sure that there's trees in the boulevard. You know, I see Peter had a little chat there Tony from the Woods is on that Healthy Growth Committee, and she'll be sure to give her thoughts to our arborist. We have a township arborist now, Madeline, and so we make sure when we plant trees, they live because we have people who know what they're doing. So that's going to happen. So this is exciting stuff. When we rebuild a road, we make sure that we do it right because it's going to be with us for a long time, and it's such an important part of our community. So that's good. The second thing I wanted to add on the attainable housing side of things, from an economic development perspective, this is so critical that we get some traction on making it affordable for people who live who work here to be able to live here, and it's not the way it is right now. And there's a significant portion of the representatives that we have on that committee understand that there's a sense of urgency there. We have to get some traction there. We have to remove barriers. We have to make sure that the supply of attainable rentals is here in Center Wellington, because it just doesn't sit well with me and the others there that people who want to live here can't afford to live here. And we've seen many examples of people who have had to move north or had to move to apartment buildings in Kitchener-Waterloo or Guelph because they can't afford to live in the community they want to live in. And that's got to change. And everybody gets, a lot of people get that, not everybody. A lot of people get that, but doing something about it is not simple. And so what we're doing with Healthy Growth is we have a project plan now, and we're gonna, very similar to what we did in this committee here, we have a project plan that we're gonna work through. So from now on, we're gonna take the first item on that project plan and we're gonna work it through to come up with very practical recommendations that go to council on things we can do to increase the supply of attainable housing in Center Wellington. Some are development charge related, some are removing other barriers, some are official plan related, some are incentives related. But the first thing that we're going to do is move towards a attainable housing target for Center Wellington to give us some momentum to see some improvement on this side, because it's absolutely critical. And we have a really good group there. We just brought in a new person there. He's an architect. Which is really good, because there's a sense out there that attainable housing needs is fundamentally ugly, and that doesn't have to be the way it is. So we have to re-educate counselors, and we have to re-educate our community that single family housing is all across the town is not what's going to make this community attractive. There's a lot of different ways that we're going to make sure that we have healthy growth here. So really good discussion for some of it yesterday, and next month it's going to be even better. But there's a real tie-in back to development, so it's good that Dawn's there to bring both perspectives. We want to make sure that we're working alongside each other. So yeah, so hopefully we get some updates here, and that we're moving on and getting some real good traction on that front, because we really need to. It's something that's really outstanding there that needs to be fixed.
So maybe, does anybody have a list of the people that are on that group? Because Steve Wright is on it as well. And of course, Steve's a builder. He's a house builder and builds apartments and all this kind of stuff. Andy, do you have a list of it? Everybody that's on that? Just so people know.
Yeah, I'll try to remember. So we have members, representatives from each of the advisory committee. Don, you sit on it. We have CSAC member and Heritage. We have 5 community members that bring in different perspectives onto the committee. We have our 2 planners, the mayor, our clerks. None of us get to vote, but so that's the overall membership of the Healthy Growth. So there are 5 community members that bring in different perspectives and expertise into the overall discussions. And we really rely heavily on them, similar to we do for you folks on this committee. But what's different from that committee is we do have 1 member from each of the other advisory committees, because they have pieces that they can speak to from their committees, from Heritage to Community Services to Economic Development. They're all tied into the healthy growth of this community as well.
Yes, Tony?
Don, if I could just ask Mayor Kelly. Kelly, is a cooperative community part of the discussion? like development of a cooperative housing community. And what I'm thinking of is there are areas around the country that have the same issue, and they've set aside lands to build cooperative housing and have rules around the selling or the capitalization of equity in the property. And I'm just wondering if that forms part of the discussion rather than just development charges and what have you. There's some very successful models out there that could be utilized in the community.
Yeah, good question, Tony. We're not anywhere near there yet. We're still on stage one, and that's getting approval for our project plan to move forward and then establishing a target. But that being said, the county did look at community land trusts, and they had a consultant, a really experienced consultant, come in and talk to us at a county level about land trusts, and that being a good way to ensure that you keep development sustainable and attainable long term, not just for the first generation. And so we did look into that as a county. So we'll see if we get there at the township level. It's not one of the recommendations that came out of the county's Attainable plan. We're trying to make sure that we piggyback on some of the work that the county's done already. And so the short answer is we haven't got there. There's 8 different recommendations that came out of the county's Attainable housing strategy that we're going to be looking into as a township committee. But that might come up. So, and we had some good conversations at the county level about that. The challenge with that one is the county already is in the business, like with its affordable housing, it's in the business of managing these units long term to make sure that they stay affordable. It's not that much of a stretch to think that the county could also do something in attainable housing that they've done in affordable housing, and them control it and them manage the building. So we've had a lot of discussions on that side. There's pros and cons to each. We are moving ahead with a project team for the county to look into a pilot project that will look into a governance structure like what you're talking about. So I would say that we're not going to duplicate things at a township level, but we'll make sure that the learnings go back and forth.
Yeah. Janet?
I don't know if this is around the healthy growth committee, just a question. So my role here now is movement of people out of the GTA area into this area, and the required growth that's going to be required in Center Wellington. We're hearing, and I'm getting a lot of phone calls and comments and questions around agricultural lands, and any of the agricultural lands that have been deemed for development that are within the urban boundary, and any of the planning and public meetings. Of course, as a representative of the Federation of Agriculture, our position always is to keep agricultural land as agricultural land. So even though
we're losing you, Janet.
Already been identified as, oh, did I? Here, I'll stop my video and see if that's better. Sorry. Is that better? Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's better.
Yeah, Peter, you jinxed me. I'm getting a lot of pressure on both sides around agricultural lands. And as I said, if it is within the urban boundary and it was already identified as future development and it kind of squares off the edge of the municipality, it makes sense to be developed from a servicing perspective and everything. But I'm just wondering, the Healthy Growth Committee, is there any agricultural representation on that committee? Only because the agricultural voice is small, and I always tell the story that the reason our family moved to this area, they were in the Milton area with really heavy clay red soil, and they took a soil map of southern Ontario. And they picked 2 areas that they wanted to move to based on the quality of the soil, and Center Wellington was one of them, of all of Southern Ontario. So I always tell that story because it really drives home the point that we have very healthy soil and very healthy soil structure in this municipality. And the OMAFRA was identified in the last Auditor General's report as not having measurable outcomes. So they are, I'm part of a couple groups, and they are just moving ahead in leaps and bounds as far as some of the initiatives. And one of the big initiatives that they currently have in the books is a healthy soils initiative. And I think that we keep talking about carbon credits and healthy environment and all that kind of thing, but the soils in Center Wellington have the ability to actually sequester more carbon out of the air than is created. So there is a huge opportunity in the agricultural realm to be part of the environmental carbon sequestration problem and solution. And so I see this as a business opportunity. And so I'm just wondering with the healthy growth, because I'm getting comments. I got a letter yesterday from a person who owns agricultural land within the urban boundaries saying, don't keep going to council and saying you want agricultural land left as agricultural land. Then I got another letter from somebody who talked about the Donkers chicken farms on County Road number 7, and the Elora Road there, and she calls them chicken concentration camps. So I'm getting polar opposite conversations. So I think it's really important to have that agricultural voice and that balance from the business potential perspective at that table.
Kelly or Andy, I guess, they're Brett. Yeah.
Just by way of responding, I think the challenge is, we are in the growth plan for the Greater Golden Horseshoe, and the province has made it a policy that they want municipalities to provide land for housing and economic development. And they've given the County of Wellington growth forecast now that go all the way to 2051. And the county is under its comprehensive review that they're doing now, they have to plan for housing and employment to meet that growth target to 2051. And the challenge in Wellington County is there's only so many places that have the sewer and water capacity and facilities to accommodate that growth. And Center Wellington is one of them. And one of the challenges in Center Wellington is all of the land is prime agricultural land outside of the urban center. So, and I don't think it would be very much different if you went to Wellington North or Erin or anywhere else in the county where urban boundaries will need to expand to meet that 2051. It's going to take place on land that's prime agricultural. I don't know that there's any way to avoid it other than to say that if we intensify and increase densities, then we don't need to consume it as fast as we might otherwise. I know from Center Wellington's numbers, we have the last time we expanded the urban boundaries was in 2003. And so we're coming to kind of the end of what that urban expansion was, was enough to get us to probably somewhere between 2031-ish and 36. But even to meet the 2041 projections that we already have, there's not enough land there. So it is a huge challenge, but I think the discussion and the deliberation on that is really at the county level. It's the county that has to look at the employment across the county and the land base across the county. And I'm sure the Wellington Federation will be plugged into that.
Yeah,
but from the point of view of economic development and agriculture, I want to point out that Janet raised the agricultural housing issue at one of our previous meetings. So we are looking at and it's been on the radar of this committee, we're looking at amending our agricultural zoning to add in the ability for the additional dwelling unit that's now permitted by the county OP, and also to make sure that we have the Ministry of Agriculture and Food in 2016 produced a document that's the guide to land use on prime agricultural lands. And so we're trying to maximize the permitted uses that can take place on agricultural property and making sure that our agricultural zoning is aligned with that OMAFRA guide to land use. Right now, there's a little bit of a disconnect between the terminology that our bylaw uses versus what the provincial guidance document. So we want to clean that up. And through Janet's urging, we've looked at a document for agricultural housing in Leamington, I think. And the conclusion that was made by the planning consultants that Leamington hired was that the provincial policy statement on agriculture already makes provision for farm worker housing on a farm. And so we're taking a look at what we can do to expand the potential for agricultural housing to suit the farm community. And I think that has business implications as well. For sure, one thing that we are seeing is on rural properties, people want to have another dwelling for a family member that works on a farm, or an elderly relative, or the parents, because under COVID, nobody wants their parents going into a retirement home or a long-term care facility. So there's definitely significant demand for building additional dwelling units on the same property on a farm.
Good. That was a great update, Brett. Thank you. Anything else on healthy growth? I've got a couple other little things here, but one of them is, first of all, where'd Rick go? Rick, can you maybe give us an idea, some of the folks that don't know you? Maybe you can explain what you do.
Yeah, thanks for having me. My name is Rick Whitaker. I'm the general manager of the Wellington Waterloo Community Futures Office, and our mandate is we have three. One is to do economic development, so we get funding from the federal government to assist our coverage area, which is the region Waterloo and the county of Wellington, to help with facilitate projects and provide some funding for economic development. The other is business service. So we have Tina Heathers, who's a business coach, and when we have, and then the third one is we lend money to businesses who can't get funding in the traditional way. So essentially those are our three things, and we're probably best known for our lending component, but we're much more, well, I guess our philosophy is that we don't like to just lend money and hope that we get it back. It's all a loan portfolio. So that's why we have Tina Heathers, who's the business coach, and she works with businesses to make sure that they're doing the best practices that they can to get to stay in business. And our biggest, I guess our mandate is to provide funding to businesses who can't get funding traditionally, and then work with them to get the traditional funding, and then they pay us back and we do it all over again with another business. So that's a good loan for us. But the one thing I guess I don't know, I was gonna just mention, I had to do a report for my board, and it was about the amount of COVID funding and assistance. And I think I'd like to say thanks to the county of Wellington. It was about a year ago that we pushed the button, they pushed the button and said, can we put some money out there to keep the business going? And so between the county and our funding comes from FedDev. So we've got 2 rounds of FedDev funding. So we've put out $4.2 million this year to mostly to the county of Wellington and the region of Waterloo. Out of that, 1.68 went to Center Wellington, to 74 businesses and supported 320 jobs. That doesn't include the grants that the Center Wellington put out. And then we also had $230,000 in grants that we put into the community. So in Center Wellington, you probably, between the different levels of government, we've been able to contribute about $2 million to keep the businesses afloat during that time. And we've probably, I think right now we've got about 300,000 in additional requests, but we're out of money. And we just kept going back to FedDev and saying, we're out of money, give us more money. And they kept topping us up. So I think we're going to be able to get another, cover that 300,000 by March 31st. So it's been a real challenge to work with it's been a real pleasure to work with the business to keep them afloat. And now we're kind of moving from recovery and looking in relief, and we're looking at recovery and what the next year looks like. So there's a bunch of programs FedDev is coming up with. So we'll keep doing what we're doing to keep, hopefully grow them in the next year.
That's great. Thanks, Rick. Quite a few years ago, Rick had a program of mentoring, and I was involved in that. You still have that, Rick?
Yes, it's still there, but it's been kind of put on the back burner because of COVID.
Sure. Anyhow, it was a really good program, and yeah, anyhow, anybody wants to be a mentor, get a hold of Rick, and whenever things can start up again, he'll put you to work. Anyhow, thank you for being part of this. I think it's really critical. We're basically in the same business here, and it's good that we're all getting together so we know what each other's doing. Anything more on that one? I have one other thing that everybody can think about.
Don?
Yes.
Just before you go on, can I just mention something about Rick?
Yep.
Yeah, I want to thank Rick and your whole team. The county moved ahead really, really quickly and provided $1 million in low interest loans. And there's absolutely no way that we could have done it on our own. And you and your team came through very, very quickly. Me and Mayor White sat together and we tried to figure out how's the best way to get money into the hands of these businesses as fast as possible. And he said, well, it's obviously through Rick and Wellington Waterloo Future. So thanks for that. I mean, you're so good to deal with, your whole team. There's no bureaucracy. We just moved so well together and we got things out really quickly. And we absolutely couldn't have helped businesses out the way that we did without your team there. So thanks on behalf of the county and the township. Thanks for stepping up to the for us.
I agree 100%. And I knew Rick Rick has this infrastructure, if you will, for putting money out and getting it back in. So it's all there already. We didn't have to reinvent a delivery system. It was perfect the way I thought anyhow. I thought it was wonderful.
Just a funny anecdote of the worst part of that whole thing, Kelly, was we ended up being a resource for all the other municipalities across Ontario, and you did that. So everybody started calling us and saying, how did you do that? And so we ended up having to try to work with them to get it through. So you were sure the leaders, that's for sure.
That's great, because it was a great program, and we might need to be doing more later. We don't know yet, but hopefully we're getting out of the ditch here. Anything else? No. Okay. One thing I'd like everybody to think about is we lost our vice chair in Paul, and there hasn't been a vice chair elected yet. So maybe at the next meeting, if people think about it, because I have a funny feeling when I get my shots, I may be going on a trip or two here or there, and I want to make sure there's somebody else in the saddle to carry it on. Okay. Peter, anything else? Nope. Colin?
No, I'm okay. Thanks.
All right. Bob, anything? Anything going on we should know about? Kim? Nope. Rick, you were just on. Tony? No. Andy, anything else you want to let the group know?
No, I'm good, Don. Thank you.
Mayor Kelly? You're good? Dennis, anything? Thank you for joining us. Brett?
Going good. Thanks, Don.
Jim? You're still on mute, Jim.
Am I,
There you go.
can you hear me now?
Yep, yep.
I'd just like to, seeing that I am going to join those seniors, I turned 90 in a few months. But anyway, I'd like to recognize our council and the county for what they have done on controlling the virus. I think we're the only community, and I can't prove this, that have not lost one of our long-term care people. And I think it's tremendous that we have, as a township and as the county, that we have done, and what we've accomplished this, and I'd like to thank the mayor and council for that.
I think we all agree with that one, Jim. Yeah. Neil, do you have anything?
No, I just want to thank this committee for the work. When you listen to everything that's going on around the table, we're in good hands. And Jim, I can confirm that. I checked with public health yesterday that we haven't lost anybody as of yesterday in any of our long-term care facilities in the township. So really good work.
Yep. Crystal, anything?
Nope. I just want to mention that we just finished one of our other starter company rounds, and we just put another $42,000 back into the hands of small business owners in both Guelph and Wellington County, with 50% representation and county. So very happy that, and we have another round starting up in May, where we have another probably $50,000, $60,000 to give out, and we've already got applications. So we're cooking with gas over here.
Good, good. Sally, do you have anything else?
Just a shameless plug that Awards of Excellence nominations remain open until the 15th if there's anyone you guys want to nominate. Other than that, thanks for a great first meeting, and I'm excited to be here.
So those nominations are open till the 15th?
Yeah, everything you see will say the 7th, but we're doing an announcement that we are extending it to the 15th.
So Janet, anything else?
No, I'm good.
Okay, anybody got anything? Everybody's, I think I've been around the block here. So if there's nothing else, I'll call the meeting adjourned. And we'll see you on the 1st.
Thanks, Don. Thanks everybody.
Don. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Yep. Thanks. See you.
Thanks, everyone.